So good afternoon, everyone. So for this session, we want to cover the video project a little bit, and then we will leave some time for you to have some QA about what you think about the project, and if there's any question, Dejah and I will answer these questions. So the first part, Dejah will cover the information about the video project.
Yeah,
Welcome, Dejah.
thanks, Kevvy. And hello again, everyone. I'm Dejah, in case you've forgotten. I'm going to kind of start today, and I just want to just kind of go over what's the next steps for this video project. So I introduced it on Monday very quickly because we didn't have a lot of time. But the main thing that I introduced was that this will be a video project that you'll work in your teams to come up with videos to create a video collection for Fulbright and local schools and ETAs and ETFs to use in their English classrooms. So as I mentioned to you guys before, the first step is going to be coming up with your team that you're going to work with and which of the 4 topics you're interested in doing. And like I mentioned, you're going to fill out that information this Friday on the 6th when we send you the survey to fill that out. So hopefully over the past few days, you've talked about this project with your fellow cohort, and you've kind of maybe thought about who you might want to work with and what topic you might want to do. But you won't actually have to report this until Friday when we send out the survey link. So you still have a few more days to think about it if you haven't made a decision yet. But what I want to do today is I want to give you a little bit more information about what this project will look like so that you can think maybe more clearly about who you might want to work with or what topic you might want to do now that you'll have a little bit more information about it. And one thing I do want to mention before I go on is that we did have a few different people reach out to us asking about the group size. And I want to mention that we would like to stick with 1 to 3 people per group, only because it'll be, by having 1 to 3 people per group, we're going to end up with a lot more videos in our final video collection instead of the smaller number of videos we'd have if we only had like 4 or 5 or more people per group. So thank you for understanding, and we hope that you guys can still end up making a lot of videos and have a lot of fun in your teams with this project. Okay, so what's the next step after you have your team and your topic? Well, the very first thing we're going to have you guys do is we want you to think about what role you might want to take on in the video making process, and we also want your team to come up with an outline for what your video might look like. So what do I mean by roles? Well, when we're talking about creating a video, we have the very stereotypical roles that people take, such as editor, writer, actor, and things like that. You don't have to pick a specific role and say, I'm only going to edit and I won't do anything else. I don't mean that you have to do this. You can actually choose to all work together for all 3 of the different parts or work together on everything. That's okay. The main reason I want you to start thinking about designating roles and who will be doing what is because there are certain roles that take a lot more time and effort. Specifically editing. For those of you who have edited videos before, this is the most time-consuming part of making a video. It takes hours and hours if you're really putting a lot of effort into editing, and it usually can only be done on 1 laptop at once because usually you're using a specific software such as iMovie or something else to do it. So because of this, the person whose laptop you're using might end up putting in a little bit more work if you're the editor. So think about that now so that maybe you can designate the roles a little bit more evenly. The only reason I say that is because I'd hate if one person ended up taking on a lot more work than the others, maybe just because they have video making experience. So this is just something to keep in mind now when you're forming your groups and thinking about who might want to do what. But if you choose to all work together for the whole project, that's also okay. Just keep some of this in mind. And then after you've thought about this, you can also start writing an outline for what your video will look like. So the outline that we're going to ask you to make is just going to be a very simple chart on a Google Documents. And this chart, you can just tell us roughly what you'll be doing throughout the 5 to 8 minute long duration. So the first outline that you're going to have to submit is going to be very, very basic. All you're going to tell us is maybe during the first minute, we're going to do an introduction to the topic. During minutes 2 to 4, we're going to go over the topic, and maybe you can just bullet point a few things you'll talk about in what order. And then maybe you can make a few notes about what you might use during that time. So maybe during the topic introduction, you'll use a PowerPoint, so you can write that on the outline. This first thing that you're going to have to submit, it should be very basic. You don't have to put a lot of details into it, like who will say what. You don't have to make the PowerPoint in advance. This is just a general kind of understanding of what your video might look like. So after you've thought about these two things, we're going to ask you to submit this outline and your roles onto Google Classroom. We're going to create an assignment for you guys to submit this. So on Google Classroom, before Wednesday, the 11th at 6 p.m., we're going to ask one person from your team to upload your outline onto the assignment that we create. So again, only one person from your team needs to upload the final assignment. You don't all need to upload it. And we'd like if you can do it before Wednesday on August 11th. And I will go over all of the important dates at the very end, so you can write this down, but I'll also share, I have a calendar with all these important dates that I can show at the end. So if you don't want to write it down yet, you don't have to. But basically, we just want to look at this, and the advisors are going to take a look, and we want to see that you've put some thought into who will be doing what, and that you've also put some thought into how you want your video to look. So after looking at this outline, the advisors for your region on your Google Classroom will just kind of leave maybe a few comments, and we'll just kind of give you the approval that, yes, you're good to go. We like what you have here. Maybe if some advisors think that they can add some comments about something else they might think is interesting to include, or maybe pose some questions for you guys to think about, or give some other creative ideas. But this first part is really just to make sure that you're on the right track with your video, and that it'll be something that will be good content for the library that we're hoping to create with these videos. So that's the next step that you're going to be doing after you have your team. You're going to be coming up with this outline. And I did mention, make sure that you include your role distribution on this outline document. You can do that in whatever way you want. You can just put a few sentences at the top of the document saying who will be doing what. You can also maybe color code it in the outline if you want. Whatever you'd like, just give us some idea that you've thought about who will be doing what work and what specific things. And then after that, it gets a little bit more complicated because we want you guys to write a script. Now, if you've made videos in the past, you may or may not have written a script. The reason that we want you to write a script is because we think it'll make the content that you're producing in these final videos a lot more cohesive and well thought out. Having a script, this really helps us better understand what specific content you're teaching in these videos, and really understand the whole process of how making this video will go, and kind of give us more input on what kind of video topic, what kind of video content we'll have at the end. So in my opinion, when it comes to making a video, writing a script is really important. And what kind of things will go on the script? Well, the script will basically be a more detailed version of the outline that you submitted the first time. So you will actually type in some general sentences of what you might say. Now, you don't have to write verbatim what you'll say in the video. So if you write some kind of introduction like, hello everyone, my name is Dejah, but in the actual video you say, hey guys, I'm Dejah, that's okay. It doesn't have to be verbatim. We're not going to be checking that. We just want a general idea of what you're going to be saying throughout the video. So it'll probably be much more detailed than the outline. We also want you guys to start thinking about some other things that might come into play when you're making your video, and include them in your script. That includes where you might film. So you could put the location that you want to film in the script next to the line, maybe in the notes or materials. You can design this script however you want, as long as it's easy for us to read. You can also put what materials you might need to make or buy. So for example, if your topic is storytelling and your team wants to make a video talking, maybe acting out the story of the rainbow fish, and maybe you want to make costumes or have face paint or something like this, then maybe you can mark it down into your script as something that you might want to buy for your video. Now, I'm not sure what budget we have yet. That's something we'll have to look into later. And if you want a budget, the person that you're going to contact about that is going to be Ariel. But what you can do to start is you can list what you might need to buy in your script, and then we'll reach out to Ariel and we'll see how much money you have, and we can talk about what's feasible. But you should be thinking in advance about what types of things you might need. Another thing you can think about is whether or not you're going to be filming outside and what kind of things you might need for that. If you live in a very windy area, it's going to be really hard to film audio pieces outside, so you might want to maybe borrow a microphone so that you can actually hear audio clearly if you're filming outside. Or if there ends up being a typhoon and you can't film outside because it's raining, think about some backup plans about where you might film if you can't film outside, or anything like that. So kind of think about these things in advance and put that information into your script, because what you're going to do is the next step is we're actually going to meet with the advisors to go over the script one more time before you start filming. So this is kind of a last check to make sure that you've covered all your bases and your team is ready to start filming. Also, if you have any questions about it, you can just put them in your script as well, because your advisors will look over them in a lot of detail before you move on to the filming step. So this part will take a lot more time, and we're hoping to get a lot more information from you guys and really see what your video will look like. So after you've made that script, you're gonna send it to your advisor on Google Classroom. So the deadline that we have right now, the tentative deadline, is Thursday, August 19th. Now, from my understanding, that's also the day that you guys are moving. So I think the schedule for this day, Kevvy can correct me, but from what I remember, the schedule for this day is that you guys will be either in the morning or in the afternoon be moving back to your sites. But then besides for the move, you'll basically have kind of a lot of free time during the rest of the day. So the deadline is before 6 p.m. you can submit this. You can choose to find time on that day or before that day to finish it, but just make sure that you submit it before 6 p.m. on Thursday the 19th. And what you're going to do is you're going to send it on Google Classroom. Like I said, we're going to make an assignment. Only one person from your team needs to submit it, not everyone. And then we'll make comments on it. We'll probably just use the Google function to leave comments for you guys directly on the script. And then after we make comments, we're actually going to have meeting times with the advisors. So what you're going to do is your team, so the 3 of you, 2 of you, or yourself if you're working by yourself, will actually sign up for a 20-minute time block, 20 or 15-minute time block with your advisor to get some final feedback and some final comments before you start filming it on August 25th. So what you can do is you can discuss with your team, and you can look at your advisor's available times and just sign up for an available time sometime between August 20th and August 24th. And again, in a moment, I have a slide that has a calendar of all of these important dates. And then after that, you're going to film. But okay, now I want to get back to the calendar because it's a little bit easier to visualize if you're looking at a calendar. So just to kind of review what this project will look like this month. On Monday, we introduced this project. And on today, I wanted to give you a little bit more information about what it'll look like going forward. And also in a moment, we're going to have time for Q&A. And then this Friday on the 6th, you're going to get a survey in an email, or I believe in an email, which will be sent out. And one person from your team should go into the survey, fill out their name, the team member's name, and choose the topic that you want. And once you've submitted that survey, if your topic goes through and you get the topic that you want, then you know for a fact, you don't need any confirmation from us. If you submitted and it let you click on your topic storytelling and it press submit and it says okay, then you know that that's your team and that's the topic that you have. And then from that time, when you submit that survey on Friday, then you have the next 4 to 5 days, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and during the day on Wednesday, to start discussing your roles that you want to take and creating that basic outline about what are kind of the key parts or components of your video. Now, when you create this outline, again, it'll be on Google Classroom, and you'll just submit it before 6 p.m. on Wednesday, the 11th. And again, only one person from your team needs to submit it. You don't all need to submit it. After that, kind of over the sometime on Wednesday evening or Thursday, your advisor will just quickly look over it and give you confirmation that yes, this does look good. You're free to continue on to the next step. And once you have confirmation, you can start adapting your outline and expanding it to be your script. So you have about a full week for this because you should get approval around Thursday the 12th, and then you'll have an entire week to work with your team about writing your script. So we hope that when you write your script, you can really put a lot of thought into all the components about who will be saying what things you need, where you'll film, and how the video will run through, kind of like a storyline for what your video is going to look like. And then when you submit it on the 19th, on that same day, the 19th, your advisors are going to post their availability for meetings. So you're going to submit your script, and then you're going to get a timetable of availability for your advisors to meet, to do one final meeting to confirm your script before you start filming on the 25th. So it might be on Friday the 20th, on Monday or Tuesday the 23rd or 24th. That's when there's going to be the available times for your advisors, and you just sign up for one of those slots and meet with your advisor virtually, probably, and then you'll get the approval, and then you can start filming on the 25th. So in the afternoon on the 25th, we do actually have a set part in the schedule for us to meet one more time about this project. And what we'll do is when we start the afternoon session on the 25th, we're going to start with one kind of PowerPoint presentation from our team, and we're going to share with you guys some specific tips about filming or some specific things to keep in mind while you're filming to give you a little bit of preparation before you start filming. And then after that, you're going to have time to film. And the final version of your video is going to be due at the very end of September. So you have pretty much the whole next part of the month to be making this video. And the goal is that because we're spending so much time on the pre-video preparation this month in August, we're hoping that it should go really smoothly for your video creation project in September, because we put a lot of thought into the pre-video planning things like the outline and the script and everything else that you might need to consider. So from August 25th until September 30th, you'll need to finish filming and editing your video into the final MP4 file that we're going to upload to the final library, which, like I mentioned before, will probably be a Fulbright YouTube channel. You will also have a few other follow-up things to do during this time, which I'll let you know about later in September, because I don't have a lot of information about it yet. But you will probably have some kind of follow-up activities where we might ask you to come up with some materials or activities that can be paired with the video you make. So if, for example, if you make a video talking about geography, maybe we'll ask you to come up with a worksheet that goes with your video that students could fill out while they watch it. So again, this is something that will come a little bit later. You don't have to think too much about this now. Right now, you can just start thinking about what topic you want, who your team is, and what your video might look like. The rest of the information will come later. But just know that in September, we're going to send you, advisors and Fulbright admin team, will send you more information and resources related to editing and finishing your video. Because I'm sure some of you might not be as familiar with what goes into editing a video. So we'll make sure to prepare some resources for you that we'll send later in September. However, we're not 100% sure now how much time we'll have to dedicate to it during our time together, as far as like workshops or other time for us go. So make sure that you and your team are able to find time, maybe on the weekends or in the afternoons or when you're free, to be able to meet to work on this project. So you will have to kind of schedule your own time for this, finding the final touches of this project. And we will probably ask you for some progress updates on your video during the month of September, perhaps in bi-weekly reports. But if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out at any time. And I know this was a lot of information. So I want to give you a little bit of time to absorb this information. But I also want to open the floor now for questions about this project, or if you have any comments or ideas about something you'd like to change, or maybe something that you're really interested in doing. Yeah, I just open for Q&A also to myself or to Kevvy for the project.
So I think Allison asked some question on the chat box already. So
Oh,
I think we can answer them first. So
yeah.
the first thing is about the editing software. I have to say I'm sorry that probably we don't really have like the pricey editing software info that can share with you guys. But I will suggest you to use the free version, like your Mac has a very good software already, or some like online free software, and I think they have pretty good effect already. But if you do, like some effect you do need, then we can do the final editing. You just write down a note, and we can ask whether there's anyone in the office can do the editing for you for the special effect.
Yeah, I'll say for as far as editing goes, I have a Mac, and I've always just used iMovie on my Mac, which has worked very well for me. But I know that not everyone has a Mac and might not all have iMovie. I will also say, I believe YouTube Creator, there is some editing features on YouTube for creating videos on YouTube as well. So you might be able to edit it directly on there. And also, I think there are, like Kevvy mentioned, there's some like 1 month free trials of different editing softwares as well. So if you wanted to do a 1 month free trial of any software you find online and then just cancel it after a month, that's fine. And we'll try and look up some more softwares that you might be able to use and provide them during the month of September, sometime in the beginning of the month. We'll give you guys some information. As far as Fulbright providing cameras or other supplies for making videos,
So
yeah.
So I think for each side there will be 1 or 2 camera, like a camera that you can borrow from your coordinators. So you can ask them. But I know that probably there will be more than one group, right? So maybe you have to talk about the time that you want to use it, and then the other groups can use it later. And I also highly suggest that you use your phone, because some of the phones are pretty good for their cameras, and I'm not quite sure whether the camera in each side is good enough for you. So you can ask your coordinator first to borrow them. And as for some microphone, I think we have some microphone in Taipei, but I'm not quite sure whether the coordinator have some microphone. Yeah, so if you do need it, you can tell your coordinator when they come to Taipei, maybe we can lend them some and ask them to take some back to their site.
Also, as far as the if you don't want the video to be on YouTube, so I don't think we're set in stone about where this video library is going to be. The idea is that these are resources that can be recycled and reused by ETAs and also LETs and schools in Taiwan for many years to come. So having an access on something like YouTube that could be accessed by all these schools is kind of our first thought, but I don't think we've set on it yet. It's more just finding a good platform to have all of these things. Kevvy?
I think it's just YouTube is just a platform, and even though we are going to, we probably will just share it internally, right? Just like with ETAs and ETFs and probably the LETs, but we may not open it to the public.
Yeah, it might not be open to the public. We might try to set all of the, especially if that's something you're concerned about, we can set the videos to unlisted so that we have the links to all of these videos that we can share internally or with LETs or schools, but they have to access it via the link instead of just being able to search it on YouTube. So we might use YouTube as a platform, but that can definitely be something that we discuss whether or not it's public or unlisted. The next thing that I see is, the next question is, we're not allowed to use stories that are copywritten. Well, so yeah, if you do the storytelling one, you have to double check. There are certain publishing companies, so depending on what story you want to use, that their publishing copyrights are probably printed online, so you might have to research that a little bit. But think of it kind of like the reader's theater that a lot of your schools might do. They oftentimes take very famous stories like the Three Little Pigs or Little Red Riding Hood or other stories, and they recreate them or act them out in a certain way and never have any problems with copyrights. Most of the copyrights tend to be with the illustrations, so you might not be able to show the illustration in the book, but if you're acting it out or telling the story in a slightly different way, then it should be okay. But if you're really concerned about it, you can Google that specific book's publishing company and check and see if they have any specific regulations on it. As far as the next question about all the filming have to take place on one day, no, it does not. That's kind of that's the first day, August 25th, where we'll have like the full afternoon for this project. And also you should be in person at your site because you'll be done with your 7 days of self-help management. So you can actually be together in person. And that's when we have time scheduled for that. But you don't have to do all of it on one day. The idea is that this project will probably take a few weeks to do. So you can find your own time outside of that afternoon. That afternoon is to kind of get you started, and then you can find your own time to finish filming if you need more time. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
As far as age ranges, that is 100% up to you. Just keep in mind that most of the ETAs are at elementary schools. We have most of our contacts with elementary or junior high level learners. So I would highly recommend sticking within elementary to junior high level because that's where a lot of our audience is at. So try and stick within that, but you can choose for yourself which specific grades you might want to do or who you might want your audience to be.
Yeah. Also, I would suggest that after you know your which grade or which age that you are going to teach, you can probably follow that because later on you can use it in your real classroom.
Yeah, that's actually really good advice. So if you're going to teach 6th grade, maybe it'd be very helpful to do a video geared towards 6th grade. The next question about, do we all have to appear in the video? No, you do not. That's 100% up to your team to decide. Like I mentioned before, there's a lot of different roles that go into it. If you're doing costumes, there's obviously costume or set creations that need to be done, behind the scenes work. There's all the editing. There's all the time that goes into writing the script in the beginning. So if you're someone who really doesn't want to be seen on camera, just make sure that someone else in your team is willing to take on that on-camera role, and you can do all the behind-the-scene work. So yeah, we're not going to make sure to like check that you're all seen, because that's not the main goal. The main goal is just to have a comprehensive, cohesive video that can be used in the classroom.
You can also use the paper doll or some puppet or some doll will be fine. You don't really have to be shown on the TV or something.
That's true as well. Yeah, that's a really good idea as well. Are there any other questions? I just want to say that I hope that you guys end up having a lot of fun with this project. This is something that I know that Fulbright has been thinking about doing for a couple years now, because it really is like a goal of the program to not only have ETAs and teachers here, but also to come up with a bigger collection of resources that can be used in the classroom. I know several years ago there were the picture books that the ETAs designed and printed out and published, and they have all the collection of the books. And those are a great resource that's been able to stay with Fulbright and be used throughout the years in different classrooms. So I think, and I hope that the videos that you guys create can be something that can be used by future ETAs and ETFs and LETs in the classroom and be a really good resource. And all the videos that you can create are also videos that you can use this year as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what you all end up coming up with. And I hope that there aren't too many issues with the actual filming and editing process. Personally, myself, I've made a lot of videos before. So if you need any tips about editing or things like that, you're welcome to reach out to me. And like I said, in the month of September, we'll send you guys some more resources for video editing if it's not something you're super familiar with.
So do you guys have any questions? But if you think of anything, that you can always like message us or email us, and we will answer you. And we don't really want to occupy you guys here. Okay, yeah, one more question.
Yeah, so that's also something that you can talk a little bit more about when we see what your video is. So once we get your outline and we have an understanding of the goal of what you're trying to talk about in your video, then we can kind of discuss between the advisors and your group how much English teaching you want to put in it. But these videos aren't necessarily to be teaching specific vocabulary. You can choose to do that if you want, but it really depends on how you want to make your video. So for example, if you're doing a storytelling video, you're probably not going to stop and teach a vocab word from the story. Instead, you might spend the 5 minutes acting out the story. And then what will happen is we are going to come up with some materials that can be used to be partnered with your video. So if you create a video storytelling the 3 Little Pigs, then you might end up coming up with a worksheet or an activity that could be partnered with that video for a more English teaching component inside the classroom. But the actual content of your video doesn't have to be English teaching as much as an English video that is at the correct age level that could be comprehensible and understood by your audience. Now, for something like classroom English or daily English, this topic, or maybe festivals or culture, this topic, for these kind of topics, if you want to teach specific vocabulary or specific phrases, you're more than welcome to do that. I'm sure you've all seen the videos on YouTube of the YouTubers who do English education where they teach like English idiom of the day. If you want to go down that route and teach something like that and make a video of that style, you're more than welcome to. But you don't necessarily have to. It really depends on what your team decides and what you feel is the objective of your video. So that's something that's definitely flexible. As far as the time limit goes, the recommended time that we have is 5 to 8 minutes. We're hoping it doesn't go over 8 minutes because that's just a really long video for someone to use in the classroom. But we also don't want something that's only like 3 minutes long because we want something with a little bit more content. So somewhere between 5 to 8 is probably a good amount of length of video, but we're not gonna be too strict if you're at 4 minutes, 50 seconds, or if you go slightly over. There's no like any kind of penalty for that. This is just a recommendation for time. Yeah, and I know you guys are in quarantine right now, so it might be a little bit hard to think about actually being out in the real world to film these, but you will have a lot. You will be able to actually be out and go out and buy stuff and film outside and actually see people. So hopefully that'll be something to look forward to. What if we don't finish on time? Well, hopefully because you have the entire month of September, and we'll definitely have check-ins with the advisors. If it comes to the point where you guys really feel like the deadline that we have set right now for September 30th is too late, or too soon. If you think it's too soon and you don't have enough time to finish, that can be something we can reevaluate. And yes, you do start teaching in September, I believe, but hopefully, because we're doing so much pre-planning work beforehand with the outline and the script and all of the other information you're doing before, hopefully it should be a very quick filming and editing process once it gets to September. And also you'll start on August 25th, so you will have quite a few days at the end of August as well. Anything else? Okay, if there aren't any other questions right now, I think we can give you guys some time to actually just discuss with your own teams, the people you want to work with, and to put a little bit more thought into who you want to be in your team and also what of the topics you might be interested in. So I think we can give you some time to do that right now. And Kevvy and I will just be around if you come up with any more questions that you have later. Sound good? Okay.